How about the band, huh? Woo! All right, are you ready for today? Hey, welcome to the show. We have a great show for you. I'm John Waters. You're not. All right. Didn't know you were going to be there. All right. Hey, so a little question here. How many of you over the last couple days, like I did, were watching the weather and dreading this weekend? Yeah, right? They told us we're going to have a major blizzard, probably be like 47 inches of snow and 180 mile an hour winds. I may be off a little bit on that, but that was close, right? All I can say, I've seen bigger blizzards at Dairy Queen. I guess you get what you pay for, right? So, how many of you can believe 2019 is already coming to an end? Isn't that amazing? 2020 coming up on Wednesday. What? How did that happen? It seems like just yesterday I was making resolutions for 2019. How about you? Did anybody make resolutions for 2019? If you didn't, play along anyway. How many of you made resolutions for 2019? Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I made one resolution going into 2019. I decided that was the year that I was going to lose some weight. And so we got to work on the timing a little bit, but yes, that was good. I decided 2019 was the year that John needed to lose some weight, so I looked at it realistically and I said, what can I do in 2019? I decided 20 pounds. I'm going to lose 20 pounds as my resolution for 2019. And I am proud to say I only have 25 more to go. My math might be off a little bit there. Anyway. No, we're looking ahead to 2020. How many of you are excited about 2020 and the prospects of 2020? I had a friend ask me a couple of days ago, he said, John, are you looking forward to 2020? And I said, how can I? I don't have 2020 vision. I don't have 2020 vision. Again, you get what you pay for. Hey, I want to welcome you to the show. Let's get on with the Sunday show. No, I won't do that. Oh, so excited to have you here in the audience today. Thank you for choosing to join us here on the Sunday show. I have a couple of guests coming up today that I'm very, very excited about. In fact, I say we get right to it. What do you think? Yeah. Welcome to the stage. Give him a big round of applause. My first guest today, Pastor Drake Hunter. Tell you what, it's not every show that gets the quality of guests that I do here on the Sunday show. And some of them are very happy about that. No. Glad to have you here, Drake. Thanks for joining me. Hey, Merry Christmas to you. How was Christmas?
Right back at you. I call it a Ryan Christmas.
A Ryan Christmas?
Yes, Ryan being the doll, the Ryan doll. Anybody heard of the Ryan doll?
Anybody? The Ryan doll?
No,
a few of you?
My granddaughter, Lily Pad, she wanted this Ryan doll, and of course some of you guys recall the experience we had years ago with the Cabbage Patch. Kind of a similar thing if you saw Jingle All the Way. That was kind of
Gotcha.
my experience in the last couple of days trying to find this Ryan doll she had to have, and so that's been my this has been my Ryan Christmas.
All right.
And so nobody knows what I'm talking about, so it's not that funny.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. We're going to
should have been
pretend
there.
like
It's
we
fun.
do those. Laugh.
Yeah, help me out here.
Yeah, there we go. Well, Drake, I wanted to have you on the show today because we're coming to the end of 2019, and you're just coming off a very successful speaking tour called Life Rock On.
Yes.
It was a one-stop tour, 52 weeks in one location.
That's right.
So, that's the smart way to do it. Instead of going to the people, have them come to you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Makes sense. All right.
Yeah, I'll be signing books in the back.
Well, let's talk about 2019. And of course, as part of that series of messages, you chose to use classic rock songs to set the themes. And a couple of things. First of all, I want to ask you what the thought process was in doing that. And then secondly, the reception to that early on in the series.
Well, the thought process is just complete insanity. So that's part of it. But going back to 2018, most who are part of our church understands that I go up into the Rocky Mountains for 10 days and just kind of put the whole year together. And back then, I recall what direction do I need to go in praying and I thought of classic rock song. Part of it was our relationship because I understand. You're a DJ or something like that. Is that what they call it?
Well, that's what I get paid for, yeah.
Okay, that's what you get paid for. And so with that, I'm trying to kind of gather what's one thing that we can say in the sense of the last 3 or 4 generations that we have in common that would draw people in the sense of interest and kind of curious about it. And classic rock came to mind. My father, who's now in his 70s, he was a huge classic rock guy. He passed it on to me. I passed it on to my kids, and now my grandkids are listening to this music, this classic rock. So I'm like, well, this is a good point to truly draw in people in the sense of God. Now, it sounds like an oxymoron, right? But one thing we have to understand is that God exists. He is. He's over heaven. He's over earth. We can say he's over the cosmos. He's over all space and time. And so with this understanding, as I'm leaning into this and going, okay, God, you're under all of this, I see something here. Now, what really pulled the trigger for me was I thought about it, and then I got really scared. Right? Because we all know in our religious day, rock music has been preached every which way. And so because of that misunderstanding, I'm like, I'm pretty scared. I don't know how else to put it. Fear came into the picture, but then that command of Christ came to me going, you got to hear my voice. And oftentimes we don't realize this. It's through fear that God speaks. And we see this through Jesus' teachings. And so it was at that point going, why am I scared? Well, to be honest with you, I was scared of great-grandma yelling at me. I was scared at certain people that have been part, let's say, of this church here over the last 5-6 decades. They've been preached to. They've heard all of that wicked stuff, and they believe it. And so that fear, so when I experienced that fear and then went to prayer, I just said, God, you know what? You're speaking to me here. So then I decided to lean into it. Then the next part was, can I do it? 52 weeks of actually grabbing not only music just because we like it. Let's say, what was your favorite song this last year? Anybody? Dream On, Sweet Emotions, anyone? What's that? Tuesday's Gone. We didn't get there. I'll get there Tuesday, though. Smoke on the Water. I know a lot of people appreciate it. What was the big one?
We had Simple Man. We did
Simple Man,
Jump.
that was a good one. Jump. Those are all the current ones.
Oh wait, I have a list
there you
here.
go, list right
How about
there.
Who Are
Help
You?
me out, John.
How about Who Are You by The Who?
Who Are You? Yes, and that was a big one. But so I had to not only take these songs, but it was the other way around. I'm like, what is my goal this year? Well, if you've been here all year, folks, know this, that I systematically went through what is known as systematic theology. I started with Dream On, which is the revelation of God, and I led that entire series with this classic rock series with that subject and lesson and what needed to be presented in the sense of theology. And we came all the way a couple of weeks ago to what is known as the end times, eschatology in seminary. So I took the entire syllabus from my seminary, and you received a graduate experience, if you will, in the sense of seminary, and you received exactly the same topics you would if you went to seminary for a Master's of Divinity. And so I did that the entire year. Now the challenge is finding those songs, understanding the lesson, the gist of it, and then of course tying it into the authority of God, of course the Bible. So you can see the challenge there, but we came back around and we did all the songs, and of course Dream On, and then the song you just mentioned was by The Who, correct?
Mm-hmm. Who are you?
Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know all these songs, folks. Hey, let me say this, John didn't know all these songs, because you got to understand the challenge, or the band.
Yeah, the whole band.
I'm just throwing it out there like it's nothing. Well, you can play Eddie Van Halen. John, come on. John's like, you know, he's one of the best in the world. So I just do it. You know? And so we put this in place, but we got to The Who, and I hope that particular song really grabbed some people's attention. Now, it's quite interesting. It probably didn't, and let me tell you why. Because in our day and age, that whole "Who Are You" is about personality, the personality of God. Anybody recall that message? Mm-hmm. And so, what we've done is we've actually, because that did not trigger anybody's real interest. Why would it? In the last 5 decades, we've actually taken the personality of God out of the picture. Think about that. So what do I mean by that? Well, that particular song, or that topic, is personality of God, which sits under the greatness of God. Now we know the goodness of God, yes, but what about the greatness of God? And the greatness of God is his, let me say it this way, his natural attributes. Okay, his natural attributes. We see it in nature, we see it in history, we also see it in the human being themselves, part of that personality. The goodness on the other side is the moral aspect of God. But that particular piece of theology there sits under the greatness of God and his personality. And we've taken that out of the Christian faith, live in the Christian faith. So when I came to that point, I was hoping to trigger, and I think we did, that personality is huge. First and foremost, I keep doing that, sorry, Jess. Jess told me not to do that. I try to be a good member, team member. So that person, where was I going? Oh, with that is, think about that in your own personal relationship with God. How many of you guys have been going to church and you've been told that you need to have a personal relationship with God? Raise your hand if that's you. Yeah, most people understand that, but you don't. Well, I'm going to say they know it, but they don't understand what that means. Because we have to go after the personality of God first. That's the infinite God, and figure out who he is and his natural attributes. And once we do that and understand that God has created us in his image, in his personality, then we figure out our own purpose, we figure out our own attributes, and then we connect those two with God so that we can have a personal relationship with God. And that has been missing. Let me say this, out of the church, the Western church, since I'm going to say 1930, Francis Schaeffer, if you follow different preachers out there, brought this to light back in the 70s and 80s. And he said this, church, you're not doing your job. In fact, what you're doing is you're taking God out of church. And he was adamant. He wasn't nice like me and cuddly. He just said, listen, he says this is the mistake you made. You told people the only thing you need is Jesus. Let that set in. Well, the problem with that, your faith is in part, Because we don't just need Jesus, we need God. Are you with me? And so we have missed that greatness of God in the sense of God the Father and his personality. And what happens is we no longer truly believe that God is or exists in the sense that he sits over all of the universe, all of space and time, and he is. Most people, generations today, believe in the word God or the idea of God. You see, when we think that and we accept Jesus, we will never get to that satisfaction in our own purpose because we've never connected with God in our personality, with God the Father, who gives direction, who gives energy. And then, yes, Jesus. Now, think about this in the commands of Jesus, folks. Very first command of Jesus, anybody want to shout that out in the Gospels? Repent, for the kingdom of God is near. And then what does he say? Command number 2, be born again. Now notice this, Jesus, the one that we are to accept, is not getting to him yet. He says, be born again, and that is truly believe that God exists. Exist above all else. He's not the universe. He is not space and time. He is the one who created all of that. We have to believe that with all of our heart. If not, you'll miss God. I promise you. Now, with that, what's the next command after be born again? Then comes Jesus, and Jesus said what?
Follow me.
Follow me. Follow me. Now, he is the model. Now we put Jesus in place. Now we've got ourselves taken care of. And then once that is in place, the next command is rejoice. Now, one of the reasons we can emphatically say that we've not followed this systematic system in creation and in God's revelation is because the next command after follow me is rejoice. Now think about that. That's fourth command. The fourth? Fourth command out of nearly 50. And that should be the result if somebody truly knows that God exists, accept Jesus, the next command is you rejoice. How many people know Christians who do not have the foggiest idea what that word even means? And so when you do this properly, that will produce joy. Not happiness, joy. And when joy isn't there, when we know that you've not properly put things in place, I'm not saying you're not a Christian, I'm just saying it's not in place yet, then what happens is the opposite of rejoice is self-pity. Think about that, folks. How many people, I'm going to lean towards the Christian, all they do is whine and mumble and grumble about life, about relationship, and I tell you what, we have to figure out that rejoice. So we have rejoice, and then of course we go all the way through. Now we have Jesus, and we're now putting the character in place. But notice this, go back to God exists. In the very first chapter in Genesis, it says that I've been created in the image of God. You've got to ask this question, what is that image? Well, part of it's your purpose, your personality, and now you become an individual in that relationship. But what's the second part of the Great Commandment? Love God with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your as yourself. And you're with yourself all the time, so you're with your neighbor. And so now we've got to figure out how to live with our neighbor. You see, what has happened, think about it, in our Christian faith, this aspect of the cross, this communication piece of God, God the Father, has been taken out. Because we no longer really believe that he exists over all time and all of that. So that goes down, and all we have is each other in our faith, and then we're imperfect on both sides of that cross. And whatever you focus on magnifies, Colossians 3, and then that magnifies, and all you got is all these problems. And you go into time and space and different generations, and now you have all of these problems. And we're asking ourselves, why do we have all of these problems? Well, go back to step 1. You've got to accept, you have to know that God exists. Step 1, yes? So parents, teach your children, that God exists. Why we use the classic rock is we go out there and draw them in. Now, nothing wrong with that music, and people will disagree all day on their preferences. I'm so tired of that. I do what I want. I had to say that.
Get it in one last time.
I got to share this, John. I had somebody come up to me, Christian, going to church 50 years now, and they shared with me the reason they don't go to this particular church or listen to this particular preacher is because they don't like the way he blinks. He doesn't like the way the preacher blinks. Now, I know that's silly, but think about it. How many people say, I don't like the way she looks. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like that type of music. We got to think about it, folks. We do it all the time. And we got to, what was that 2020 vision? We've got to shift our vision or put the right lenses on so that we can truly have a lenses that see as Christ saw, as God the Father sees. I don't see you in your weaknesses or how many times you blink. I see you only in your strengths. Now, I say that not to say there's no problems, but we resolve those problems. We don't criticize those problems. And so we don't live in what I've been saying now for a couple months, in the pee-pee problem. Mm-hmm. Right? The pee-pee problem is you live in your problems rather than truly living in your purpose. And if you can't give good insight or good conversation, your purpose, clearly, you got some work to do, because then you're just living in your problems, if you think about that, with God and with other people. And whatever you focus on magnifies, and if we're living in our problems, what's going to happen to our problems?
And grow.
Magnify. And so we got to shift that view, if you will. And our worldview, let me make this very clear, is we are an Orthodox, evangelical, Christian, Bible-believing church, yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no apologies there. But most people don't even know what that means. And so we're leaning into that. That's what we did for 2019. You got theology in a very, hopefully, creative way. And now we're going into the next year, correct?
Yep, exactly. And so first of all, how about that 2019 series, Life Rock On? Huh? Well, let's talk about 2020. Of course, that starts next week. Yeah. And another very creative series, this time not using music, but rather using movies. I know. And the title of the series is Lights, Camera, Action.
Yeah, this will be our series for 2020, and we're looking forward to it. We're going to actually transform this place. You're going to want to come next week to see what this is all about. But lights, camera, action. Again, trying to bring this all together. I decided this next year for 2020, we're going to go all the way back to Genesis 1:1. And simply that just says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. And we have to start understanding, in the sense of the Christian faith, that God sits over heaven. He is heaven. He sits over earth. He is earth. And we have to understand, and we have to figure this out, folks. We have to figure out how that works in, I'm going to say, perfect tension. Because we have heaven over here, that's your purpose, that's your relationships, that's everything you can't put in your hand. And over here, we have earth, that's all the tangible things, that's your cars and objects and events. And we've got to learn how to use both of those as God designed heaven and earth to be, so that we can, like your guitar, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, we can tighten that up to have good stress, good tension right there, where we can get that string or our life right into its purpose. So the purpose of an E string is to give an E sound, and we're constantly making that adjustment so that we can live not only in our purpose as individuals, but as couples, married couples, families, church. We've got to figure out how to do that. We're going to do that in 2020, and we're going to use this theme. Lights, of course, is God. Camera, for God created the images, all the information coming into the camera. You're forming. God created the heavens and earth. That's where we're going to take action, and that's how lights, camera, action. And what we're going to do is I'm not going to use movies. I'm going to actually use famous, let's say, quotes.
Well, let's take a look at one of those. In fact, coming up next week, right here at Elevating Life Church, from the movie Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man. Of course, the quote is, if you can see it up there, with great
Power
comes great responsibility. And what we'll be doing next year is I'm going to be revealing two things. Objective truth when it comes to leadership. So if you come next year with what we uncovered with the commands of Christ and all that, this next year I'm going to be teaching on skills of a leader. I'll uncover 52 objective skills. Understand that leadership is about objectivity, not what you think it is. And we're going to teach on that through Scripture, but at the same time, we're going to reveal practices, like the practices of Christians. What is prayer? What is meditation? What is studying? What is corporate worship? What is simplicity? We already hit on that this last year. What is just solitude? What does that mean? And we'll be putting those two together. And by this time next year, we'll have those skills in place with those practices. But if you've been here the entire time with me for 5 years, you have this very clear plan in place for your life, because the first year was love. The second year was truly getting an understanding of what it means to be together. Then I preached that whole next year on the commands of Christ. Last year was theology. This year is now those practices or discipline of the Christian. And once you have that in place, you have the integrity of the Christian faith at the end of 2020. So we're just not just shooting from the hip here going, well, we'll just kind of throw the dart and hopefully we hit something. We're doing this intentionally so that you can truly understand what a good, fulfilled life is with God and with others.
Now, the first several weeks, there's another focus along with that, right?
Yes, we're bringing a new ministry to Elevating Life Church here. It's called Celebrate Recovery. Anybody know about that? Oh, I thought I'd get a little clap, hand clap there. Someone, okay, all right. The first 10 weeks with the leadership and also with the practices, I'll be uncovering 8 principles that actually fall in line with Celebrate Recovery. They're the Beatitudes from the Sermon on the Mountain, so it's quite familiar to me. So I'll be taking, we have a responsibility with this ministry to truly give an understanding of the Beatitudes and all that. So the first 10 weeks, I'll do an introduction, 8 weeks, and then I'll close that out with closing the principles out. And then that will set up a foundation for Celebrate Recovery. If you don't know what that is, that means people are suffering in the sense of addiction or perhaps some mental challenges. There's a lot to it, grief, divorce, whatever, that they will come to Elevating Life Church and truly have a place that they can be mended, just like if you went into a hospital physically. And so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to put a whole new infrastructure in place for Elevating Life Church. It's not just a separate ministry. It is going to be our ministry in the sense of that infrastructure.
Very good, very good. So I hope you're looking forward to 2020, lights, camera, action, yes? Absolutely. All right. Well, let's give a big round of applause to my first guest, Pastor Drake Hunter. All right, well, we're not quite done yet. I've got another exciting guest that I want to bring up here to visit with us for a few moments. So if you would, give a big round of applause to my good friend, Doug Roskop. You got to watch him. Yeah. Well, Doug, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Well,
great to be here.
I wanted to be sure we had you on today. Now, we've tried to have you on the show before. I keep having to bump you off, I think, like 27 times or something.
Well, I'm glad I finally made it.
Yeah. Oh, darn, we're out of time. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. No, there's a couple of exciting things, opportunities that we want to be sure to get out to folks in our audience here today. And so I wanted you to talk about those. You brought some things along with you. So let's talk about these connection cards. Which camera? We're over here. Okay. All right.
So yeah, the connection cards, it's a wonderful way for us to do life together. So that's what the point of the connection cards are. It's not for us to hound you or be up in your business. But, we do want to live life with you. There's a lot of different things that we have going on here. My wife and I will have our true testimony of like what this church has done for us, but it really has been a wonderful family to become a part of. So we invite you to connect with us. An easy way of doing that is just filling out that card, leaving them in the baskets back in the back. Or if you don't want to do that honestly, just make a phone call. Make a phone call, connect with the leadership team, and really become connected with Elevating Life Church because it's changed my life. So.
All right, that sounds great. One other thing we want to make sure you talked about today, and that is the opportunity for people to join in the ministry through generosity.
Yeah, amen. We have a wonderfully generous church here. And
yeah. Money.
No, a number of different ways, but with a very young population that we have in our church, we're trying to get healthy financially. I went through the Financial Peace University class, which we're starting again February 5th. It's a wonderful experience because we actually get to connect with the instructor. We get to go to houses. I did our class at Calvary University, one of our partners that helps Elevating Life Church out quite a bit. We love that partnership. And we invite you to become a partner with Elevating Life Church through a cash donation. So it's all part of it. It's all in order for us to support other families and other people in the community. And so you can...
No.
Yeah. So the wonderful thing in the seat back in front of you is a check envelope. Lovely check goes right in there. And again, collect them in the baskets. We don't pass the plate, but we do ask you to just find it in your heart to be able to be generous and give to the church as well. So if you're not a check writer, we also have other online tools of being able to give through technology, through the text to give. Those instructions are up there on the screen. Or a wonderful resource for anybody listening on Facebook or even in the audience is our elevatinglifechurch.com site, and direct you to the far right hand of the screen and giving in that location there. This actually is a live website, so
now if you're
keep adding zeros there.
If you're wondering where to start with
no, but really the generosity of our members and everything is wonderful, and thank you very much for your support.
All right, thank you very much, Doug. Let's give it up for Doug. In fact, let's give it up for both my guests today, Pastor Drake Hunter, also Doug Roskopf. Thank you for joining me, guys. That's going to wrap up the Sunday show. I'm John Waters. Thank you for being a part of the show, and let's go make a difference in the community. God bless you, everyone.